Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
And then I said, well, wait a minute, this looks really familiar. And then the big tip-off, I guess, if you will, is when I saw Martin Truex Jr. in the old, the old 78 car from Furniture Row. I go, this is not today. This is last year's race. So, yeah, I mean, I was surprised, just like a lot of other people, they many people thought that this was actually the race, and some of the drivers had some fun with it. Clint Boyer got on Twitter and he had a couple of singers out there, which Clint, being from Kansas, he likes that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, again, I'm not going to criticize another network, but I think that other people interjecting their thoughts about not knowing that this was a replay. That's suffice to say what probably should have happened. I'll leave it at that.
Now, I want to ask you also, you always tell me that, hey, NHRA, I know just as much as NASCAR. I mean, that's actually kind of my thing, NHRA. So we'll do that. But there's a story that you highlighted, actually, and kind of an interesting story. Former NHRA champ Tanner Gray won his first NASCAR race, and it was only his fourth start. Now, and to me, that's sort of, that is surprising. I mean, that you would think, well, here's drag racing, and here's, competitive racing, that sort of thing, an actual track, an oval, you got to knock somebody out of the way, that sort of thing. Tell us about Tanner Gray. This seems to me then to be a real star on the rise that we might be talking about winning cup races in the near future and all this. How unusual is it for someone to come from NHRA onto the NASCAR circuit?
It is very unusual, and my colleague at NBC Sports, Galen McFadden, wrote a very good story. And the interesting thing about Tanner is that his family, he's a third generation drag racer, but he's always held the aspiration that he wanted to go NASCAR racing eventually. And the timeline for Tanner was so quick. I mean, he was 17 years old. His father, Shane Gray, a pro stock driver, and his grandfather, funny car driver, primarily Johnny Gray. They put Tanner into a pro stock car, and I mean, he took to it like a duck to water. And within 2 years, he became the youngest NHRA champion ever. But he always had that dream that he would go into NASCAR racing, and now he's in the K&N series, which is you could call it the fourth or fifth rung on the NASCAR ladder. But to win your first race within in your first 4 appearances, that is big stuff. And I mean, it's going to take him a few years to go through the truck ranks, the Xfinity ranks, eventually to get to Cup. But he's shown that he is definitely doing at home in this type of racing. And I know there were some fans out there that kind of are holding out hope that he'll eventually go back to NHRA, and I just don't see that. I think that he's got his mind made up and his future made up to be in NASCAR and succeed in NASCAR, and so far so good.
Now, you also think this could be the week that Alex Bowman gets his first Cup race, speaking of up-and-coming drivers. And what makes you think that Bowman has a chance, a real good chance to win in Kansas?
Well, back-to-back second-place finishes at Talladega and at Dover.
Okay.
These are career best finishes for him. And, he's hot right now. His car, number 88, is very, very hot. I mean, with those kind of performances. And, I would not be surprised to see him win. But that being said, you did allude to it a little bit earlier. My pick for this race, though, is not going to be Alex Bowman. I think Alex will probably finish second again, but I'm going with his teammate. I'm going to ride this horse until he wins, because Kurt Busch has not exactly worked out for me, so I'm going to go back to my other horse, and that's Jimmie Johnson. That's what I think.
I'm telling you, you have become Chris Berman in the 90s, picking the Bills and the 49ers every year to go to the Super Bowl and all that, which, by the way, you would see that and you'd say, well, Berman does have a point, even though it never transpired. You're still, eventually the number has to come up for Johnson. He's just too good not to go on. It's like, come on, eventually this pitcher will, I know he's been hit for 9 straight hits. Eventually he's got to get somebody out. Eventually Jimmie Johnson is going to win a race. And I just hope it is not like I said, I can remember when it seemed like Richard Petty, when I was a kid, he won in '83, and that even seemed like it took a long time to happen. And then he was on the circuit for 7 years and really was just, mediocre at best. And I hope that does not happen to Jimmie Johnson because, we are talking about someone who, although, Busch now, I guess people are talking about, could this guy be the greatest driver, what with his 200 overall victories, even if they're not all Cup? Well, Johnson with his 7 championships, I think a lot of people are, wanting to throw him into the mix along with, say, and Earnhardt, certainly a Petty, or whoever else you wish to name. So, Pearson, who we spoke of last year. And by the way, I don't know if you've done this, but you can get that interview now on YouTube that we did last year on the Silver Fox, David Pearson. So there you go. Yes. Or I mean, if you want to go way back, and Fireball Roberts or someone like that, a lot of guys you can, say and cherish and all that. I cherish my conversations that I have with Jerry Bonkowski. He's going with Jimmie Johnson tomorrow. You're listening to Tri-City Sports Now on 1420 WEMB Sports Radio. Seemed like